Whispering Stones of Oakhaven. The old city of Oakhaven did not welcome strangers. Nestled in a fog-drenched valley in New England, its cobblestone streets were narrow, crooked, and always wet, even when it hadn't rained. The buildings were hundreds of years old, leaning against one another like decaying teeth, blocking out the sunlight. Arthur was a historian, obsessed with urban legends. He had traveled across the United States to find Oakhaven because of a single, disturbing rumor. The city's foundations were built on something alive. He checked into a small, decrepit inn on Blackwood Street. The air inside smelled of mold, dried copper, and old paper. The innkeeper, a pale man with clouded eyes, didn't say a word. He simply handed Arthur a heavy iron key and pointed to the stairs. That night, the fog rolled in thicker than usual, pressing against Arthur's window like a pale, suffocating hand. Unable to sleep, he sat by the desk, reviewing old maps of the city. Around 2 a.m., the modern world seemed to vanish. The silence was absolute. Then the whispering began. It didn't come from the hallway. It didn't come from the streets. It came from the walls. Arthur pressed his ear against the cold, damp wallpaper. It sounded like hundreds of dry, rasping voices, speaking in a language that made his stomach turn. The words were low, rhythmic, and urgent. They weren't just making noise. They were chanting. Driven by a mixture of terror and morbid curiosity, Arthur grabbed his flashlight and walked out into the dark, empty streets. The fog swallowed the beam of his light. The cobblestones beneath his boots felt strangely soft, almost like walking on leather. As he walked deeper into the heart of the old city, the whispering grew louder. It was coming from everywhere, from the brick walls, the stone arches, and the ground beneath him. He stopped in the center of the town square, beneath the shadow of a massive, ruined church. The air was freezing, but the ground was warm. He shone his flashlight down at his feet. The cobblestones were moving. They were shifting slightly, rising and falling in a slow, synchronized rhythm. Asterisk, inhale, exhale. Asterisk. The entire city was breathing. Arthur gasped, stepping backward, but his foot caught on a protruding stone. He fell hard onto the ground. As his hands slammed into the earth, he realized the terrifying truth. The stones weren't rocks. The texture was wrong. They were rough, gray, and calcified, but underneath the grime, he could see the unmistakable shapes of human faces, stretched and frozen in eternal agony. The old city hadn't been built with stones. It had been built from the people who came before. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through Arthur's ankle. A pale, calcified hand had erupted from the street, gripping his leg with impossible strength. The whispering ceased, replaced by a sudden, deafening chorus of screams echoing from every wall and every alleyway. The ground beneath him began to liquefy, turning into a quicksand of gray flesh and old bones. He pulled against the grip, but another hand shot out, grabbing his wrist. Then another, clawing at his chest, dragging him down into the dark, suffocating foundations of Oakhaven. The flashlight dropped from his hand, rolling away to illuminate a fresh, empty patch of dirt. As the earth pulled him under completely, Arthur felt his skin begin to harden. His bones begin to lock, and his voice joined the eternal, horrific whisper of the city. The next morning, the fog cleared. A new tourist arrived at the inn, walking down Blackwood Street. They stepped on a strangely shaped, gray cobblestone, never noticing that it looked exactly like a man screaming in terror.